Okay, in this tutorial I'll show you how to do a 3D wind tunnel like this. Now this is an improved version of the previous one I did, but that's because some people had problem with the mail script. So in this tutorial I'm going to make it much simpler, and also I decided to change the mail command to make it much easier to understand also. So okay, let me show you what I'm doing. So here's the wind tunnel, and that's what I'll show you how to do it. And also I noticed the wind tunnel, the traces are going this way. In the next part I'll show you how to put them horizontally, and also the third part I'll show you how to put them vertically. Okay, so this is not hard to do. Like I said, I will break down the email command to make it easier to understand. Let me stop this and let me create a new don't save it. Okay, first of all, make sure you're in the dynamics mode right here, and then you go into fluid, create 3D container. Next is, let me scroll all the way up. Okay, I'm going to change the size to 30 because I want it to be much longer. I'm going to move it up right here, and then this part I'm going to make it keep it 10, 10, uncheck this one, and I'm going to multiply by 3 times, so 30 times 3 would be 90, and this is 30 and 30, so 10 times 3 would be 30. Okay, enter. Okay, since the fluid I want to go from in the x-axis, I don't want it to be contained, so I want it to be none. There's no boundary, and then keep everything the same right here. Go down to display. Right here, open up, and then right here was a boundary draw. Choose bounding box. So now I don't see the grid at the bottom. Like that. Next, as you need to do is go into open the content details, open up the density, and where's the density scale, make it 1. And this buoyancy, I don't want it to lift up, I want it to be straight, so put to 0. And then scroll all the way down here where you see shading. Okay, open up shading, and then what you're going to do is I'll change this part later. Where it's a color, change to, instead of constant, change to speed, like that. And then that's all you have to do. I will change the settings even more later on. Okay, so make sure that you go into outliner, and make sure it's not the transform node selected. Open up, make sure it's a shape node selected. Next, you go into the channel box right here, and then in the channel box make sure you add an attribute. So you go edit, make sure first of all it says shape 1. Okay, so you know that the shape node selected. Go edit, add attribute, and right here I'm going to type in wind speed. Now make sure you type it exactly this. Okay, so the wind speed I'm going to keep it as float, meaning it can be a decimal number, float. The minimum is the 0. Let's say I want 50 mile per hour or kilometer, and the default would be starting, meaning let's say 20. Okay, next, so if I scroll all the way down here, you will see wind speed. Next is I'm going to add another one, edit, add attribute. This time I'm going to call it tracers. You can call like smoke trails if you want to. Okay, traces I want to be whole number, so it's going to be integer. Put 0, and maximum is, let's say 10 tracers, and I want the default or the starting to be 3. Okay, so now I have it. Next is to input some command. Okay, let me again make sure your shape node is selected. You go into Windows, Animation Editor, Expression Editor, and you select by expression name. Here you give a name, call, let's say, smoke expression. Again, you can call whatever you want, but be specific. Okay, and then this time, instead of pasting the command, what I'm going to do is type it and explain to you very clearly. First of all, you have to look at the name of your fluid. Okay, again, don't pick the transform node, make sure you pick the shape node. Since mine is called fluid shape 1. Okay, remember earlier down here I added a attribute I call wind speed. Again, it has to be very specific. Do not look at the name right here because earlier I had a different spelling, so I spell as wind speed. Okay, and how can you tell what the correct spelling is? If you look over here under modify, edit attribute, you see here I spell like lowercase w capital space speed. Okay, so it's very specific how you spell it. Next, what I need to do is put this whole speed into a variable. Okay, so equal. Let me put. Okay, what is a variable? Here, let me put a variable. First of all, to start with a variable is you do a $, and since it's a speed, I call it velocity. Again, you can name it whatever you want to call it. You can call it speed if you want to. Okay, and then another thing is since the speed is going to be a decimal number, I'm going to call it float. Okay, now let me go back and explain what a variable is. A variable is a container or a box to store data. Okay, for example, when you say 1 plus 1 plus 1 equal 2, right? The equal sign would be the container. It contains the data like that, because you don't say just 1 plus 1 and then nothing. So whatever this is, it stores the data. So the equal whatever this one is like that. And since whenever you want to end a command, you do a semicolon like that. Next one. Again, I'm going to do the name of the container, fluid shape 1, and then the other attribute I added was called tracers. Again, don't look at this name. Remember, you look at the modify edit attribute, and I spell it with a lowercase like that. Okay, so it's very important you spell it. Fluid shape, it's called tracers. Again, I want to store that data inside a container, so I use a variable, start with a $, and this time it's tracers, so I call it tracers. And again, tracers meaning the smoke trails, I don't want it to be a decimal number or fraction, I have to use it as a whole number, so that's why I use integer. You want to end the command with a semicolon. Next one is to do the resolution. Right now that my fluid, if you look on here, go in attribute editor. Okay, you see how I have the resolution here, X, Y, and Z, these three boxes. So I have to tell it the resolution. Again, the name of the fluid, shape 1 dot resolution. Okay, since I want it to be, let's say I want the, let me create a polygon sphere. Let me rotate it. Okay, since I want the smoke trail to be along this way, like that. Let me duplicate one more time. Like that. I want the smoke trail to go along this way. Okay? So look at it, they are stacked horizontally up in the y-axis. Here, that's the y-axis if you look on here. So whenever you want to do the y-axis, it's going to be the resolution H, and then store that data into a container. Again, it has to be a variable, and this time, since it's going horizontal up, I'm going to call y res, okay, which is this one right here, that one, okay. And again, I want it to be a whole number. I'm going to call it integer, like that. End it with semicolon, and the next, again, I give it the name of the container, fluid shape 1 dot resolution. This time, what I want to do is have the smoke trails. So I want the smoke trail to start either in the middle of the Z, or at the beginning of the Z, or end of the Z. It doesn't matter which side. Okay, so that's why I have to give a resolution, and whatever you do in the Z-axis, it's going to be the letter D. And then store the data into a container. Let me space it. Variable, and this time, since it's along the Z-axis, I call it the Z res. and then again I want to have a whole number, that's why I use integer. To end it, you do semicolon. Next would be the density, meaning how dense do I want the fluid tracer or smoke trail to be. Do I want to be very thin or very thick? And that's why you have to do store it data into a variable, a container. Again, I call it density. You could call it thickness if you want or whatever, okay, but I'll keep it density. Again, here I can either say 3 or 5. Let's say 3 is fine. I can change this number later and store it data. Okay, I already store it. Since density it's okay to be a decimal number, I'm gonna call it float. Like that. Go down. The next one will be set the fluid adder. Fluid adder. Okay, what does this mean? Let me type in the command or explain to you. AT velocity. I will explain what I'm doing after this. Okay, first of all, set fluid adder, meaning where do you want the velocity to start? Okay, because it's like when you do let's say a race at the Olympic or marathon, you don't just start anywhere. You have to start at the starting line. Okay, and that's what it is right here. This axis right here is the x-axis along this range. So that's why I have to tell the velocity. Do I want to start at the beginning, at the middle, or end? And that's what the set fluid adder means. Where you want to start. This word right here is a short term for the word attribute. Instead of typing the whole word attribute, you shorten by using the minus and at. The attribute of what? Since it's a fluid, this is the property of the fluid will be the density or the velocity. So in this case, the attribute of it will be the velocity. This means x index. Again, it's an attribute. That's why you see the minus sign. Anytime you see minus, it means it's an attribute. Okay, so x index meaning where do I want to start? Do I start all the way here, in the middle, or all the way over here? I will change this number later so you can see what it means. This part again means it's an attribute of what? VV means velocity vector. Okay, think of first of all, you know what velocity means. Okay, vector means it has two numbers. It can't have one number. That's why you have two numbers here, 0, 0. Again, we start at 0 and 0. Okay, I will change this number later so you can see what it means. I know this part is confusing, even for me it is, but just think of it where it starts. Okay, next one would be we have to declare an item. Okay, the way you do it is you use the $sign I. That means it's an item. Okay, but since I want the item to be whole number, so I go with integer and then end it with semicolon. The item can be anything. It could be, in this case, it's the number of tracers. That's why you don't have to call T. In programming, you use just a letter I. Okay, and now we have to loop it. For to start a loop, you start with the word for, and then I'm going to do parentheses like that. So again, we start out with an item I, and since it's at the beginning, we want it to be nothing, so equal to 0 and end it. Then I want to do is I want to take the item. If the item is less than the number of tracers, end it. Okay, for example, if I have no tracers, then that means, well, that item is going to be less than 0 traces, and that's what I mean. If there are no traces, then take the item and add it 1. Okay, that's what you mean. That's what it means. Plus plus. Okay, so if let's say I have one item, then take that item and add to another one. I can add as many as I want to, and that's why you see the plus plus plus. That's what it means.